Okay, hey, this is Coach Rod. It's Monday night. I saw you earlier today at 11:30. I'm talking to my ANSI 332 class. I decided to do a videotape rather than write something out on an email because I guess it's good practice for me to do these little video updates, almost like a podcast, but it's visual too. But what I wanted to say is that what we did today, I'm going to summarize a little bit. I'm not going to tell you everything we did, but there are always people missing class each day for different reasons, different great reasons, good reasons. And this gives me a practice also. So, one of the things we did today was talk about the two people, ends up being parents. Let me get my laser pointer going. Two parents were arrested in a car because they left their kids in a Walmart parking lot in Muncie. This is one of my students. One of you guys sent me this. And it ends up being the kids were 2 years old and 8 years old. And I'm sure they locked the car and they went into Walmart. Like you might say, what's wrong with that? I'm going to teach you how to think about this. Two kids in a car, motor running because it's cold out now. This is February. But they must have had some leak in the exhaust system, and I don't know if it was a passerby that said, wow, look at those kids are in distress. If I saw two kids that were 8 and 2 in a locked car in any parking lot, I would immediately call 911. And I want to tell you why I do this. Because when you see these situations, you have to ask, what's the worst thing that can happen? Here's the worst thing that can happen. The car can start on fire. And when you're 2 years old and when you're 8 years old, I'm not sure if you can let yourself out of the car. There could be a carjacking. Remember, the parents went into the Walmart. So it's like just a 2-year-old and an 8-year-old in the car, but the car is running, but the parents are in Walmart. Nowadays, there's a lot of carjackings. Then there could be a kidnapping or a combination of those two. Somebody wants to kidnap the kids, which is terrible, or take the car. And then not on the top of the list, but it could be carbon monoxide leaking, and ends up being that's what was happening to these kids that were actually taken to a hospital, and I think they were flown to another hospital. So that was crazy. A take-home lesson, obviously. Then one of the students in class, I asked, hey, anything happen over this crazy weather and snow we had? And somebody said, yeah. I went home and I smelled gas. We called the fire department and they came and they said, get out of the home now. So there are gas leaks. Now notice this is not carbon monoxide leak. This is like the natural gas leak, or might be propane. But if you're in a town, it's usually natural gas that's coming in from the street. So they had a gas leak, and then I told them, or told this person, that yes, there's natural gas, two natural gas supplies to homes, And there are natural gas detectors. I'm not familiar with those, but if I had a home with a natural gas range, water heater, furnace, I would ask the gas company, should I have detectors? And if I need them, how many and where should I place them? So the take-home lesson here is, no, I'm not talking about carbon monoxide. I'm talking about natural gas. And so here I found this, and gee, they make these gas detectors that detect propane, natural gas, methane, perhaps, butane. I'm not familiar with these, but look at the cost is relatively low, $33. So if I had a home with a natural gas stove, furnace, hot water heater, I would definitely have these, and I would try to explore how many should I have and where should they be placed. I'm just going to plead ignorance here because I'm not familiar with these. I'm very familiar with carbon monoxide, but I'm just going to say they make these detectors. Okay, so one other thing we did on this Monday, February 7th, is we contrasted, I guess probably I should say, pentobarbital versus phenobarbital. Pento-pheno. And notice that's alphabetical, PE versus PH. The pentobarbital, I told the class, I used to use as a pre-anesthetic agent when we were doing surgery with big boars and sheep. It's a short-acting barbiturate. We would, let's say, knock the sheep down with pentobarbital in the jugular vein, and I think I made that comment in class. When you have sheep, what's your blood vessel? One of the only ones you have available to yourself is the jugular vein. We would, according to body weight, give the sheep an X amount of milligrams. They would go down, and then I was very good at intubating sheep with a laryngoscope. The endotracheal tube and the laryngoscope. Maybe sometime I'll write that stuff down. I didn't do it this time. They were upside down. They were in dorsal recumbency, and I got very good at intubating the sheep. And then we would put them on the gas anesthesia and not rely on the injectable pentobarbital. Phenobarbital is something different. It's used for animals with seizures. It has other uses as well, but I'm just doing my experience. So anyway, that's what these two compounds are. And then Pentabarbital, now we're going back up to the PENTO, is a controlled substance. It's a class 2. There's class 1 through 5s. 1 being the most restricted, 5 being the least restricted. But Pentabarbital was a class 2, or is a class 2. So when I had tons of this stuff, which I did have tons of it, I had to have a safe. I had to have a DEA license number. Had strict inventory control. And yeah, it's nothing to mess with. And I'm going to show you a bottle of this stuff, or actually 2 bottles. And it often came, and the stuff we used, maybe I should say always came, as a powder at the bottom of a bottle. So let's say there's a powder at the bottom of this bottle. Do you know that makes the shelf life longer than if it was in a solution. And then what happened was the Nembutal, which is the name, another name for the Pentabarbital, when the Nembutal came, it also came with a bottle of sterile diluent. So you would add this sterile diluent to the bottle of powder when you were reconstituting this solution. And, of course, you did that. You saved all the bottles, so forth and so on. So, remember, it's very important that we meet in class. We had our quiz today, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But it's very important that we hear from every student, whether it's questions or comments or experiences. So today, somebody said, hey, and they emailed me, but I had them explain it in class, or we did it in class. Stray voltage is like where you touch something and you'll feel current or voltage go up your arm, whatever. So this person, this student, said that they had stray voltage in their mailbox at home. And obviously it's not one of those mailboxes out by the road. It could be, but this one was connected to the house. It ends up being, if you have a nail or screw that goes into the wall to hold your mailbox, and you don't know how close it is to a wire that's inside the wall, you can get stray voltage. And their mailman said, hey, I get shocked every time I touch this thing. Obviously, that would be terrible. Anyway, so that was the home mailbox. There's an easy explanation. And then, of course, Rod has some experience with stray voltage. And I talked about my example and my experience with dairy cattle and a water apparatus in the middle of summer. It was probably June. How I got a shock from the cow's watering device. And yeah, very interesting. It happens. It's out there. It has killed people. Stray voltage. You got to be careful about that. It has messed up many dairy farms. And if you're aware of the existence of it, you might say, oh, I got a little shock there. I'm wondering, do I have stray voltage? Okay, so now I just want to talk about what we did Monday for a quiz, and then what we will be doing Wednesday, the 9th, February 9th, for a quiz. Sorry, I know everybody can't make it to class every day, and I got an email from one or two people today that said, I'm sick, or my roommate's been exposed to the virus, whatever. Anyway, on Monday, we had a quiz, and it was on 3 subjects, which I had already posted days and days ago. One part of the quiz was name or list 7 statements of fact about sweet clover poisoning. It's very interesting. You know, it was up in Wisconsin, or the veterinarian might have been in Canada. But the point is, moldy sweet clover can be a potent anticoagulant. Wow, that's a statement. The antidote for sweet clover poisoning is vitamin K, an injection of. You had to do 7 of those statements. Then you also had to do 7 about aflatoxin. Aflatoxin is a poison made in moldy corn. Another statement, aflatoxin targets the liver. Aflatoxin may be found in dog foods that rely on a lot of corn, period. So you have 7 statements like that. And then I said 7 terms that end in toxin and then define them. So like you could list neurotoxin, an agent that targets, poisons, nervous system. You could have talked about hepatotoxins, toxins that target the liver. Nephrotoxins are poisons that target the kidney, so forth and so on. So that was what we did Monday. Then, here's a heads up, quiz on Wednesday 2/9. Why do we do these quizzes? We want to see you in class. We want the learner to be active. So on Wednesday, here we go. The quiz will be on antifreeze poisoning. That's these 2 links here. These are links right out of our webpage. Antifreeze poisoning in dogs and ethylene glycol poisoning. They talk about the same thing because antifreeze has ethylene glycol. Then you should know about chocolate. Chocolate poisoning in dogs. Dogs love sweets. Chocolate is sweet. And by the way, ethylene glycol is also sweet. And then there'll be some questions on organophosphates. It ends up being, these are compounds that are used as insecticides. Insecticide is a word that means killing insects. But it has profound effects on the nervous system in our animals. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Good deal. See you Wednesday.